Hey, it's Mr. Ring going over quiz number 1.1 to 1.2, taking August 28, 2019, version D. Short answer, the cost of sending a cell phone picture is given by y equals 0.75x, where x is the number of pictures sent and y is the cost in dollars. Write the equation in function notation. Function notation just says that for every in my function value, so you can think of f, for every value of x is 0.75x. Interpret the function in terms of its context. So the context is that x represents the number of pictures sent. So you can say something like the total cost is a function of the number of pictures sent. So if you send a lot of pictures, then your cost is less. Sorry, if you send little pictures, little costs, large number of pictures, large number of costs. Question C, find f of 12. What do these values represent? Well, if you put in f of 12 here, it just says put every x value to be 12, so we could put in 12 right here. Maybe do 0.7512. Take out my calculator if I have one. Here's my calculator. That'll be 9. F of 12 equals 9. To send 12 pictures will cost $9. Determine the domain. Domain refers to the x values. X values represents the number of pictures sent. So the domain will be, if you used integral notation, could be 0 to infinity. Set builder notation, that would be for all values of x. You could pick x values that are greater than or equal to 0. You can't have negative pictures. So any of those should work. Question number 2. Determine the domain of the following relation. Remember, domain are the x values, and the x values go from left to right. So I have a graph here. I notice that I have a closed circle coming from the left. The first thing I touch there is that closed circle, and you're always on the x axis because you look at the domain, that's -4. And then the last thing I touch is this arrow. Now, be careful. This arrow is, although it's pointing down, that's not important. The important thing is that the arrow is saying it's going to keep going in this direction, which is positive infinity. So if you didn't know that, you can write these. Well, that's for the range, but so -4 to positive infinity. And this will be a bracket, and this will be a parentheses, which is choice C. Find the numerical value of all this when x is equal to -2. That basically means for every x value, we're going to put in -2 and see what happens there. So I will get -2 minus 2 over 2 times -2 squared minus 7 times -2 minus 15. And then this will become -2 minus 2, which is -4. Remember using PEMDAS to simplify here, so that would be -2 times -2 is 4, and then 4 times 2 is 8. -2 times -7 times -2 is positive. So you have 22 minus, that'll be -4/7. That'll be choice C. Now to check your answer, you could have just put that into your calculator and then see if I can show you. Put that into my calculator. That didn't work on ours, but so x minus 2, 2x squared minus 7x minus 15, and then from here I'll just type into second graph, or get into my table, and I realize if I go to -2, I get -0.5714, and then that was the number I was looking for. So you can even use your calculator to double check. Question number 4. How is question number 2 bounded? So bounded is referring to the y values, the range. So if I go back up to question number 2, down here, let's see if I can get a different color pen. This would be, notice how the graph can go anywhere down here, so this would be unbounded. But here, it looks like there is a boundary, so that would be bounded above, unbounded below. Let's see if we have anything like that. Bounded above and unbounded below. So that'll be choice J. Only bounded below, there is no boundary down there. And then none of the above, but we have J. Question number 5. Using graphing calculator, determine the domain of and range of f of x equals x squared plus 8x plus 12. So some things you can already gather. This is a quadratic because it's power of 2, a value is 1, so it's going to be opening up. I'm trying to show you guys some hints of, really you don't even use your calculator. And then positive 12, let's say, I totally did this problem without the calculator. I should have just factored it. Can you factor it? Yeah, x plus 6, x plus 2, so your x values are -6 and -2, so let's get a better graph. Nah, let's start over. -6, -2. Opening up, it's going to hit y-intercept of 12, and then the vertex, if you needed that, would be the midpoint, so -6 plus -2 is -8 divided by 2 is -4, so somewhere here in -4, and then you can actually put in -4 in there and actually get a value, so -4 plus 6 would give me 2, -4 plus is -2, so that would be -4. So -4, -4. Let's double check my graph there. Again, I'm just going to put in y equals, press clear, x squared plus 8x plus 12, zoom 6. There's my graph. And all I really need to know is this point down here. So that looks a minimum. So second trace, go to minimum. Where is my, there you are. Left side to the right, and guess. And that's essentially -4, -4. So that is helpful for us because now we have domain goes from left to right. So -infinity to +infinity. This essentially basically means when you have these arrows, you're picking all the negative values and all the positive values. So that would be all real numbers for the domain. Not these two. The range goes from bottom to top. So from the bottom, your y value is -4. And you include -4 because it's a closed circle to +infinity. So interval notation, that would have been bracket -4 to +infinity. With an inequality, that would be y is greater than or equal to 4 because the values are bigger than or equal to -4. And that'll be choice C. That side was 6. I just counted 12 points, and then for your name and period, so that would have been 14 is correct. Onto the back side, free response, make sure to show all your work and box your answers, graph the following function, and label the extrema. So I know it's an even degree, kind of like a quadratic, so I know it's going to be starting up, ending up, but it's going to be pointing down because of that a value. Y-intercept of 9. Let's graph that. Maybe you're clicking on the negative button. X minus 5x squared plus 9. Zoom 6. Okay, so this is what my graph looks like. I already know that's +9, but if you didn't know that, you can also do the second trace. That's a maximum, so let's go to the left of it, enter to the right, and then try to get exactly on there. And you have to pay attention. This is essentially 0. This is scientific notation, and this is saying move the decimal place to the left 6 times. And what you'll get is you'll get a super small number that's essentially 0. So be careful how you read your calculator. Let's do a quick sketch. Now before I sketch it, let's double check by the window. Let's go to window. I don't need so much on the left side, right? I can trim this. I can trim that. So maybe we do like -6 to 5. Y minimum, I just want to see what's happening to the graph. So I'm going to go -100, and then we'll count by tens. Let's see what our graph looks like now. So it looks very like a parabola, like a quadratic, but if you're not sure, you can always go more. I thought we said -100. So that's what our graph looks like. And you could have done that algebraically, right? To show that this is the y-intercept of positive 9, not negative. And then it says label your extrema. So label means putting it right there, and that is our maximum, or our vertex. So a vertex can be a minimum or maximum. In this case, very specifically, it is a maximum. It says use the graph above to answer the questions. Where is it increasing? So increasing questions are focusing on the x, but you do look at the y values. So for example, from here, negative infinity. So if there's a person on the roller coaster, it's going up, left to right, and we stop there on the x value at 0. And we don't include 0. And then the next question would probably just be decreasing. Can we get in there? Maybe no. Decreasing, then, as you go left to right, is the y values are starting to fall from there. So that would be at 0 to positive infinity. Question number 7, find the domain algebraically in interval notation. So domain algebraically means what are values can I pick for x? Remember, in a square root, if you have a negative number, those are essentially imaginaries, and then that's essentially the complex number system. We don't want to go in that direction. So you can have 0 in here, or numbers that are bigger than 0. So I'm going to take the radicand, the numbers inside, and we're going to set it greater than or equal to 0. So I have 3x plus 4. And you might be asking, how come I don't use the 1? All I did was just shift the graph up. So I'm just going to solve for x. Whoops, meant to cancel my 3. So I have x is greater than or equal to negative 4/3. Remember, I don't flip the inequality sign unless it is dividing by or multiplying by a negative number. Just going to draw myself a quick number line to give yourself a visual. In the middle, I like to put in negative 4/3. You can put in your calculator, that's essentially negative 1.33. So that means a bigger number might be something like 0. And in inequalities, you have, let's see, get a different color pen. This shows you that closed circle, and bigger numbers are to the right and smaller numbers are to the left, so you're going in this direction. Now, because it is variables on the left, the inequality is pointing towards the right, you will go to the right. Where numbers that are bigger than negative 4/3 will 0 in any positive numbers. Now, how can you write that in interval notation? Interval notation, the closed circle means you include that solution as part of the answer, so that would be a bracket, negative 4/3, and then we're going in this direction, which is positive infinity. So this would be my answer, which I am boxing. Give some partial points, so 4 points if you get this all correct. 3.75, maybe there's an error in graph. 3.5, maybe you didn't label with the words vertex or max. and then the order pair, or order pair. I might give you 2 points if you knew that it was an even function. Even function just means that the arrows are in the same direction, or something correct. Down here, what's the common mistake going to be? Left answer in inequality as an inequality, or set builder notation. Three and a half if you make some kind of algebraic mistake. Two points, something's correct. Something correct. Let's move on to question number 8. Given the following function, find the x-intercepts. Make y equal to 0. This is your y, so I have y equals x over x plus 4. So we're making the y value 0. And then how do you solve for x? Make this a fraction, put it over 1. You can cross multiply. You get 1x equals 0 times x plus 4. So you get 1x equals, this turns into 0, and then x is equal to 0. So my order pair will be 0, 0. Y-intercept, make x equal to 0. So I have y equals 0 over 0 plus 4. 0 over 4. 0 divided by 4 is 0. So that means you have a y-intercept at 0, 0. So on my graph, they're both x and y-intercept is exactly the same. So 4 points are correct, 3.75, small error. Probably means you have 1 correct. 3.5, you're going to have 1 correct. Big error. 2 points, something correct. And then 1 point, nothing right. You just tried the problem. Question number 9, graph the function in 8. Make sure to include asymptotes in a table of values. Let's do that. In my table of values, you can already have your, so this is my table of values. You can already have 0, 0, because that's what we already graphed. How do you do the asymptotes? Well, right now you guys only know the vertical asymptote. And basically you set the set denominator equal to 0. So that would be x plus 4, sorry, not equal to 0, because you can't divide by 0. Subtract 4, and then we have a vertical asymptote at -4. Okay, what does this mean? If you graph use this dark line right here. Let's use my favorite color pen, -4. I tried to make graph paper show up, but didn't do so well. Okay, let's just say this is -4. This is to show you the vertical asymptote. X cannot equal -4. You have 0, 0. So what happens is that basically what you want to do is you want to pick values, a couple of values. So at -4, watch. You know -4. You already know that on your calculator it'll say error, and I'll prove that to you. And then you can just pick a couple of numbers before it, what's happening. I already know what's going to happen at 0, 0, so I'm going to guess the graph's going to do something like this. There's a curve here, and then there's probably going to be a curve right there. Or it could do it the other way, curve and then curve. But basically what you want to do is we picked some numbers, -4, -3, to the right of it and to the left. So that would be -5 and -6. -5 and -6. And then you can just punch it into your calculator. Make sure you're putting extra sets of parentheses. So I have x divided by x plus 4. And then I'm going to go zoom 6. And there you can see your vertical asymptote. Then later this week we'll learn about the horizontal asymptotes. And then if you go to remember to set your table set, you can press second window, and then you want it to be auto and auto, or you can have the independent on ask if you wanted to. But now I'm going to go to the table, so second graph, and I can just put in these numbers. We already knew -4 was going to be error. That's my dividing by 0 is undefined, and I can just copy these numbers. So I have -5 is 5, and -6 is 3. -3 is -3, -2 is -1. And then I can just kind of graph this. So that's -4, -6, -5, -3, -2, -1, 0, and then I don't really have, graph paper was really bad, sorry. So at -6 you have something like 3. And then -5 is getting bigger. That's the big idea here. If you realize it's getting bigger, and then -4, -3 is -3. So you're coming way down here now. -2 is coming up, and then eventually we're gonna hit there. So take your favorite colored pencil and kind of shade that in. And if you did the more positive values, you realize that it's gonna approach a number. There's be some kind of limit or boundary there. And then same thing this direction. It's gonna get really close. Again, you're gonna learn about horizontal asymptotes. That's essentially our graph right there. So we're almost done. So 4 points. Show you how I score the rubric. 4 points, all correct. 3.75, small error. Maybe in not showing your table of values. 3.5. I'll say you're missing 1. You're showing me your vertical asymptote algebraically or the table of values. Table of values. And then 2, something's correct. Something correct. Then ask the question, is this continuous or discontinuous? Right there, I have to pick up my pencil, right, to come down here. So that would be discontinuous. What type? How far does that blue line go? It is infinite. So infinite discontinuity, discontinuous. And then I add up all the points there, and my TA's added points there, so 14 plus 19 should give you 33. And then we'll come up here and give you the score up here. And then hopefully you don't lose any points for not boxing your answers or being messy. And then the final score should be circled right there. Good luck.
Math.
Say it again.
Our math.